Hi, today we're here to talk about stretching after running. So running is really good for you. Good for your cardiovascular health, good for your heart, good for your muscles, but it's also high impact. It's tough on your joints. There's a lot of pounding that happens that can impact your spine, especially if you're racking up lots of miles every week. So if you're one of those runners that's out there really pounding the pavement, you're probably stretching all the time, right? Probably not. I don't know a lot of runners, even the ones who put in lots and lots of miles, that stretch and give their bodies the relief that they need to kind of counteract a lot of that pounding that happens. So you're here today. We're going to do 5 yoga postures that really cater to what you need after a run. Getting your hips and your legs and your feet. We'll be in each posture for about a minute. If it's two-sided, we'll do a minute on each side. I do have 2 props today, a blanket and a yoga block. You can definitely make do with whatever you have around the house. A blanket, obviously use any kind of blanket. A block, you can even use a pillow in this particular case, or you can make do without any of these items. It'll really be fine, I promise. But next time you go on a long run, take a minute, watch this video, do these stretches, get familiar with them, get comfortable with them. It will make a difference, I promise. Okay, first step, we're going to do a seated forward fold. Sounds pretty straightforward. I'm going to take a blanket here. The point of sitting on a blanket is that it starts to tilt your hips forward. So giving you just a slight edge, getting your hips and body all moving in the direction that you're going to be going anyways. So start by extending your legs right out in front of you, feet together, legs together, heels together. You're going to take a deep breath in and imagine yourself growing taller from the crown of your head all the way up to the ceiling. Big breath in. As you exhale, you fold your body forward. This doesn't seem too complex. What you want to make sure not to do here is just to hunch. Keep your chest open and lifted, even if it means you're sacrificing the depth of your fold. It's okay. It's not a contest. You can have your hands right here alongside your legs, just gently resting. If you have the space, you can reach for the bottoms of your feet. In yoga, we talk a lot about breathing. So as you breathe, you want to use that breath to deepen your way into each posture. So take a deep breath in, imagine your spine growing a little longer. And as you exhale, maybe you find a little bit more fold. There's just a tiniest bit. And you can use each breath to help deepen the postures. A few more breaths here. You should feel this up the back of both legs, up through your hamstrings. One more breath in. One more breath out. Wherever your hands are, release them and gently roll yourself all the way up to seated. Now take your legs, move them to the edges of your yoga mat, or, about 2.5 feet if you're not using a mat. I feel like oftentimes we do a forward fold, folding over legs together, and oftentimes we do a forward fold over really wide legs, but this in between doesn't get a lot of action. Same concept here. Sit up tall, take a deep breath in, crown of your head reaches up, and exhale, fold over this kind of mid-leg fold. So you're not real wide, legs aren't together. You're hitting a different area of the hamstring by giving yourself just a little bit of width. Same concept here, breathe in, lengthen. Breathe out, fold. Another breath in, another breath out. Gently on an inhale, roll yourself up to seated. And bring your legs into center, give them a nice shake. Perfect. We're going to move on to our second posture. It's called double pigeon, or sometimes you'll hear it called fire log. So stay up on this blanket if you're using a blanket. If you have a block or a pillow, this is the one you'll need it for. We're going to start by drawing your leg in. Put your shin parallel to the front of your yoga mat. So imagine you're on a mat, shin is parallel. I'm going to switch legs so you can see this. Shin parallel to the front of your mat. Take the opposite leg, shin is also parallel to the front of the mat. Both feet are flexed. My ankle is stacked exactly on top of my knee. My knee is stacked exactly on top of my ankle. Both feet are flexed. Now you'll notice I have this huge gap right here. You might be similar, you might be different. Some people get into this posture and they're immediately 2 legs are flat as a pancake. If you've got this big gap like me, that's what you can use a block or a pillow for. Get that block under there so your knee's not just floating around in the sky. You got a little bit of support. So if you have the space, we'll fold over these legs just like we did on our forward fold towards the front of the room. So hands can be at your side or even here on your legs. Take a breath in, grow tall. Take a breath out, gentle fold forward. Just like we discussed, each breath in, your spine gets a little longer. Each breath out, you fold a little deeper. Now we're getting into the hips. This is my favorite one. After a long run, this is where I really feel it. Getting into that outside edge of your hip. You might find that after being here for only a few breaths, your hips already start to release and relax. I definitely feel that. So don't hesitate if you're feeling like you're releasing to go ahead and remove that block. You can walk your fingertips forward. Again, don't hunch over. Keep your chest open and lifted, letting your back come down nice and flat. Using each breath. One more breath in. One more breath out. Gently pick yourself back up. And you can see here there's a big difference in the space between my knee and my foot after just a minute or so of being in this position. So gently use both hands. Straighten those legs out. Got to do the other side. So switch directions. You can see it from this side. Both feet are flexed. Ankle's right on top of knee. On this other side, knee is right on top of ankle. I could probably still use the block, although this side seems to be a little bit looser today. So take a breath in, grow tall, take a breath out, walk those fingertips forward. Again, if you feel like your hips are starting to settle in, you can move that block, set it aside. One more breath in. One more breath out. And gently pick yourself up, back up. And exhale. Release your legs out in front of you. Give them a wiggle, give them a shake. All right, awesome. We won't need any more props for the rest of class. So if you've got a couple things, you can get them out of the way. Now we're moving on to screaming toes, which is as fun as it sounds. So you'll start by coming onto your knees. Easy enough. Pick yourself all the way up to kneeling high now. Tuck your toes under. Draw your hands to your heart, only because it gives you something to focus on. Get those toes tucked nice and under. Your heels are up and over your toes. Your knees are right underneath your hips, about hip distance apart. Take a deep breath in, grow tall. And a deep breath out, start to lean your weight back over your heels. The only real adjustment to think about here is your pinkies, pinky toes. Some people like their pinky toes to be untucked. Some like them tucked in. Depends on the day. You decide if you want to mess with your pinky toes. Once you get that settled, you sit and use your breath here. If you're not a big yoga practitioner and you're not sure what I mean, All I mean here is this will start to fire up. It'll start to fire up real fast. So use your breath as something else to focus on. You can count the length of your inhales. Breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out for 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out for 4, 3, 2, 1. You can hang on to that rhythm or continue to just breathe steady and slow. Try to give yourself something else to think about other than that screaming toes. We'll just be here for a few more breaths. One more breath in. And one more breath out. Gently place those hands down. Gently untuck those toes and give those toes a tap on the floor behind you to release after that. All right. Now we'll come onto our backs for our last two postures. So flipping over onto your back, we'll start by drawing both feet in pretty close to your behind. Hip distance apart, feet are hip distance apart, knees are pointing right up at the ceiling. Pick up your foot, cross your ankle just above your knee on the very, very bottom of your thigh. This top knee is going to press towards the front of the room. There are so many options in this pose. We're getting into our hips again here. In this particular one, you can stay just like this. This is option number 1. Hang out here for as long as you need to. Option number 2, you take your hands and you thread it through this number 4 that you've made through your legs. You can grab onto the back of your thigh and draw your thigh in towards your chest. You can even use this outside elbow to continue pressing that knee toward the front of the room. If you've still got more space, you can reach around to the front of your shin. Draw your shin in towards your chest, still pressing this knee away. You can continue to use this elbow to press that knee away. If you find that you've still got more space and you're particularly loose in your hamstrings, you can take your foot all the way up, grabbing onto the ankle or big toes, still pressing this knee towards the front of the room. So you decide. So many choices here, but in every option, you'll notice how important it is to continue pressing this knee towards the front of the room to get into those hips, up the back of the glutes. While you're hanging out here, sometimes I like to take this floating foot. You can do a couple ankle circles. Remember to go in both directions. Last breath in. Last breath out. Pick up that top foot, release it, bring both feet back down to the mat. And other side. Pick up the opposite foot, cross it over just above the kneecap. Option 1, you stay right here. Pressing that knee forward towards the front of the room. Option number 2, you grab the back of the thigh. Still pressing that knee towards the front of the room. Next option, you grab the front of your shin. Last option, extend the leg, grab the ankles or big toes. Continuing to press that lower knee out. Last breath in and breathe out. Drop your feet back down to the mat. Send both feet to the mat and we're ready right for our last posture right off the bat. You're going to take your 2 feet and wiggle them out so that you can touch the edges of your mat. So that's a bit wider than what you're probably comfortable with in hip distance. You're going to walk them out to the edges of the mat, again about 2.5 feet apart if you're not on a yoga mat. Heels and toes are lined up, both pointing towards the front of the room. Take a breath in. As you exhale, use your exhale. Your lungs will be empty. That's the time to twist. Let your exhale drop your knees over to one side. So much so that your inside knee is reaching to or towards the ground. Same with your outside knee. By having this really wide stance, we get into the outside edge of that hip and that upper thigh, and it really creates space for those knees to fall all the way to the side. Your hands can be just above you, and we call this cactus arms. And gaze at the opposite direction of your knees, just to add a little bit of a twist towards your upper spine. One more breath in and out. On an inhale, let your knees come back up to center, head comes back up to center. Again, on exhale, carries your knees the opposite direction. Let everything fall to the side and switch your gaze the opposite of the direction of your knees. Release your glutes. Try not to let anything be tense. One more breath in. One more breath out. Then inhale, draw your knees back up to center. Gently draw your knees into your chest and sit up. And that finishes off our collection of poses that works you through that post-run stretch. All of these, you can mix them up in any order that you want to, but these really hit those major areas. So whenever you take a run, long, short, fast, or slow, take a few minutes that same day, maybe the next morning, maybe immediately after your run, and set yourself up in these postures to really alleviate some of the pounding that you experience on your body and prevent soreness the next day. Thank you. I hope you loved this. It was wonderful to practice with you today.